One question I get over and over and over again is about sex before marriage. And couples will say stuff like, well, we know we're getting married soon anyway, so what does it matter? Or, well, I've already been married and had sex, so not like I'm saving myself anymore, so what's the big deal? Or, how will we really know if we have sexual chemistry if we don't try that out before we get into marriage? And so for every one of those questions, my answer is always the same, and it's simply don't do it. But maybe not for the reasons you're thinking. Not because the Bible says so, although that's a good reason if you're a Christian. Not because you could get pregnant or might get an STD, although those are possibilities. That's not why I want to say don't have sex before marriage. So today I want to give you 5 reasons not to have sex before marriage. Welcome to Relationshots. My name's Eric Wooten, and if this is your first time hanging out with us, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to the family. If you've not already done it, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Today I want to jump right in. I don't want to try to set it up, don't want to mess with it. I'm going to give you 5 reasons not to have sex before you get married. Reason number 1 is sex blinds us. Yeah, because sex binds us, it also blinds us. Researchers have showed us over and over again that when a person has sex, chemicals are released in the brain. Chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, vasopressin, to name a few. And these chemicals do some things to us. So think about dopamine. Dopamine is associated with the reward center of the brain and is studied extensively when it comes to addiction. And they've done study after study and brain scans, and they've shown that a brain scan of somebody high on cocaine looks a lot like a brain scan of somebody who has just had sex. The same areas in the prefrontal cortex are illuminated and highlighted and really active. So what that tells me is when you have sex with somebody, you're kind of high. And people who are high do not make good decisions. And so if you're continually having sex with another person, you are living in a state of high in the relationship, which will cause you not to make rational decisions about the relationship and will likely cause you to overlook red flags and issues in the relationship because you're high. So one reason not to have sex is it will blind you to what's really going on inside the relationship. A second reason not to have sex before marriage is it weakens us. Yeah, sex actually weakens us. Here's what I mean. I hear couples all the time talking about this and, well, we were trying not to have sex, but it's just so hard to resist. We love each other and we're so attracted. It's just hard to resist that temptation. And so we give in and, you know, that sounds cute and romantic and we want to celebrate that. But if you play that movie forward about 5 years and, the same boyfriend who can't keep his hands off you, you're so irresistible, he just can't help himself. What happens when he's on a road trip and you're not around and he sees something that's irresistible? Is that the same guy you want, the guy with a lack of self-control, to be somewhere else? And so we celebrate this idea of, well, we just can't keep our hands off each other, but we actually should be celebrating something called self-control. Is not only a fruit of the Spirit in the Bible, Galatians chapter 5, but researchers say that it's actually something we can grow, and self-control is something that helps us attain goals we have in life. And so this idea of we just can't resist each other is actually a celebration of a lack of self-control, and I promise you, it'll spill into other areas of their life. If you guys cannot control yourself in this area, there's going to be lots of other areas of the relationship where you will not exhibit self-control as well. And so it will actually weaken you when you give in on this kind of thing. Thought number 3 is this: sex confuses us. Yeah, you may have never thought about it before, but the goal of sex outside of marriage and the goal of sex inside of marriage are actually 2 different goals. See, outside of marriage, the goal is about performance, right? 2 individuals who are having sex with each other who are not married are trying to perform for one another. You want to be good. Nobody wants to be bad in bed. Nobody wants to be talked about to their friends and said, they just weren't that good. They said, you want to be good in bed. And because of that, you're performing when you get together with somebody. But when you move into the context of marriage, sex is about connection and intimacy and serving one another. It's not about performance. And so it will confuse you in the relationship. Here's what often happens. One or both people, when they are performing outside of the marriage, are actually doing things they don't necessarily like, and maybe they're not even comfortable with, but they're performing to the expectations they think the other person has of them, and they want to be thought of as good in bed. Fast forward, you get in the marriage. And now you're not going to want to do the things that you don't enjoy or that you're not comfortable with, and you shouldn't, because that does not build intimacy in the marriage. But now you're confused, because when you were dating, they were all about doing fill in the blank. But now you're married, they don't seem to want to do fill in the blank anymore. And so you're confused, and it actually hurts the relationship. So remember that outside of marriage is about performance, inside of marriage is about connection and intimacy, and it would not be healthy in a marriage for one spouse to force or try to push another spouse into doing something sexually that they're not comfortable with. That will not bring you together. That will actually cause division in the relationship. So having sex outside of marriage can confuse us. Number 4, sex outside of marriage will ultimately separate us. And here's what I mean. We think that sex is really, at the end of the day, sex is the lazy and easy way to get intimacy and connection with somebody. You just have sex, and because the chemicals are released in the brain, you automatically feel connected to them. But what happens is, long term, it does not set you up for a healthy marriage relationship, because you do not have to work on the other types of intimacy that actually lead to longevity in relationship. Emotional intimacy. If you're a Christian, spiritual intimacy, intellectual intimacy, recreational intimacy, doing stuff together. And so because sex is the easiest way to feel connected and the easiest way to get to intimacy, we don't work on all the other foundational intimacies that will really sustain and build a strong marriage for the long term. So in the short term, it feels like it's connecting us, but ultimately it's separating us because we're not working on the other types of intimacy. And a lot of couples actually use sex as a conflict resolution tool. They fight, they have a lot of makeup sex, and they feel better about the relationship, but they've never resolved what's really going on, and it keeps building and building and building. At some point, that's going to blow up and get you. So makeup sex is not a, I would say, valid or healthy conflict resolution tool. Number 5, sex connects us. That's right, we've talked about it, and all those chemicals released in the brain, researchers tell us they make you prefer the smell, the look, and the touch, and the feel of the other person that you're having sex with. So it actually is something that binds and connects a couple, but the problem is when you start doing that with someone you're not yet married to, when you get married someday, it will actually weaken those bonds that you have with that person. So there you have it. 5 reasons not to have sex before you get married. It blinds us, it weakens us, it confuses us, it separates us, and it connects us to someone we've not yet made a covenant commitment with. So I want to issue a challenge today. If you're dating and currently having sex, I want to just challenge you to stop for the next 60 days. Come on, you can do it. You got self-control. For the next 60 days. Just put that to the side, and I promise you, you'll notice some things in your relationship. You'll be forced to develop some areas of intimacy you've not been working on, and it may open your eyes to some issues in the relationship that you really need to work on that you've just been masking over with sex in the relationship. I look forward to having a discussion with you in the comments section below and hearing your thoughts on the ideas presented here today. And as always, if you think this video would be helpful to somebody else, maybe someone you've been arguing with about this very issue, consider sharing it with a friend. I look forward to seeing you next time on Relationshots.